What's up, Vikings fans? Welcome back to another edition of Viking Spin. I'm your host, Jason, and we're coming at you today with a segment here about the Vikings special teams and how it's becoming kind of a special teams makeover, if you will. Marwan Maalouf, the new special teams coordinator, on board this season for 2019. He takes over Mike Prefer's unit. And there's been a lot of changes. So, a lot of the off-season talk is focused on the changes on the offensive side of the ball for the Vikings. Obviously, with Kevin Stefanski being promoted as full-time offensive coordinator and Gary Kubiak being brought in as the assistant head coach and offensive advisor, bringing his zone blocking scheme to the Vikings, and Stefanski now, as we saw in the first preseason game, similar to the last 3 games of last season, where the running game is more of an emphasis and the play action is more of an emphasis, and you have more of a balanced offense. Well, that's obviously been a talker because, that's where the Vikings have focused a lot of their resources to get better on offense, drafting Garrett Bradbury in the first round, Irv Smith Jr. in the second round, Alexander Madison in the third round, as well as signing Josh Klein to improve that offensive line. But special teams has had a makeover as well. In the 7th round, the Vikings went out and drafted a new long snapper in Austin Cutting, and it looks like he's just won that position battle as they let go of Kevin McDermott a couple of days ago, and now Austin Cutting will be the long snapper for the Vikings going forward. And also in camp, the Vikings have been experimenting with different holders. Maalouf not leaving a stone unturned, making sure he has a backup emergency holder. Chad Beebe's been doing a lot of it. You also saw Adam Thielen doing it. But it looks like Beebe's the fallback guy there. And it looked like Matt Weil was going to be the holder for Dan Bailey, but recently now Weil apparently cut his hand during the preseason game against the Saints and had to get stitches afterwards, and the last 2 days he hasn't been able to hold. Well, we'll see if he's holding today. But then the Vikings go out, just when you kind of thought that the other 2 specialist positions were solidified, the Vikings go out and trade for Baltimore Ravens kicker Kaare Vedvik. And so Vedvik, he is a kicker /punter. He's able to do both. He was doing both in college, and the Ravens were using him, as a kicker last preseason, as well as the first game of this preseason. And over 5 preseason games, Vedvik was 12 of 13 on field goals, including several from 50 plus. I believe he had a long of 56, if I'm not mistaken. And he consistently gets the ball kicked out of the end zone for touchbacks. So there's no chance of a return when he's kicking there. And his punts, practicing some yesterday and routinely booming them, coffin corner, long punts. And he had at his first practice a couple of field goals. Granted, they weren't live; they were just him kicking off of a tee or off of a hold with no defense. But he was hitting everything. He was hitting them short. He was hitting 45, from 50 to 55. He hit 60 and 62 as well. So this kid really has a leg to him. Vedvik, originally born and raised in Norway. Isn't that a Viking story for you? But he has fared very well as a kicker, and the only reason the Ravens were willing to trade him is because they knew he had trade value, and they already have Justin Tucker, who's the best kicker in the game, and Sam Koch is their punter, and he's one of the best out there. So, he was expendable to the Ravens, but But for the rest of the league, there were 4 teams trying to trade for him, including reportedly the Bears and the Packers. So the Vikings prevent a couple of division rivals from getting a kicker that they wanted. And now head coach Mike Zimmer says that they're going to look at Vedvik as both a kicker and a punter, more likely either or, not that he's going to do both jobs. My opinion is that, he should probably be the kicker. I mean, Dan Bailey was once one of the best kickers in the game. I think he was the second, or still is the second most accurate kicker in NFL history. But the last couple of years, after he suffered an injury, he just hasn't been the same. His kicking percentages have been in the 70s, which is not good on field goals. And he's not consistently getting touchbacks. A lot of his kicks are short when he's kicking off, and he's really struggling from the right hash, it seems. It's been a problem for him throughout OTAs, minicamp, and training camp. Now, granted, they have been experimenting with different holders, and that doesn't help. They had 2 different long snappers. So I think they're trying to get this whittled down to where they can get some rhythm, but they really got to do it now because we're only a few weeks away from the regular season. So I would think in the next week here that they should make a firm decision. They may take longer. Maybe they let them play it out all 3 weeks, but they've got to get somebody established as the holder. I mean, even if they replace Bailey with Vedvik, are they also going to be replacing Weil? Now, what's the extent of his injury to his hand? Are they confident in Weil as a holder? Those are questions that have to be answered still. So it's possible that the Vikings could be replacing Bailey with Vedvik at kicker and then going to either free agency or the waiver wire and getting a new punter / holder for Vedvik. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Also, which is to be determined, is the return game. Now, for years, the Vikings had Marcus Sherrills as their punt returner. For a stretch there, they had Cordell Patterson as the kickoff returner. So there was really no question on who was going to be doing return duties for the Vikings, in recent history. But this year, they've had to start over there as well. They've had multiple players trying out at kick returner and punt returner. They do seem to be settling on some. Amir Abdullah seems to be the guy that they favor for kickoff returns, and also they like him on punt return too. Chad Beebe's been taking reps there. We've also seen Jordan Taylor taking reps at punt returner, and now Olabisi Johnson has taken reps primarily at kick returner, but some at punt returner as well. So those guys, they're trying to help their roster chances. I think Beebe has cemented himself a roster spot, but Taylor and Johnson are really still fighting for them. I think Johnson did himself some favors in the Saints game as a receiver, showing that. So I think he's definitely got himself into the conversation for a roster spot and competing for some snaps, probably as WR4. Taylor's got to kind of bounce back if he's going to grab that last roster spot. You still have Treadwell, Zylstra, Bidet, Hollins, and Davis all still battling, and Dylan Mitchell as well, all still battling for roster spots. But that's where they are. You've also got guys competing to be gunners too. Is that how Laquan Treadwell carves out a roster spot for himself? These are questions that still need answers, but it's definitely worth watching what happens with Kaare Vedvik, because this is very intriguing. And the fact that Zimmer didn't have a concrete answer as to what they were going to do with him, it's concerning a little bit, because I'd like the Vikings to have more direction right now at this point in the preseason, but I can understand them not wanting to leave a stone unturned because they've gotten special teams wrong the last couple of seasons. So definitely something that they're trying to correct. I think they have corrected the offense for sure, just from what I've seen here in training camp and in the preseason. I know you do have to take it with a grain of salt, but I really do think that that is true and sincere, because just from past success of Gary Kubiak, the success of having a balanced offense and what that does for you, you know, the fact that it's not easy for opponents to get to the quarterback when you're utilizing the running game and play action and moving the pocket. I've just seen a lot of positive signs from the Vikings offense that makes me a believer there. But here they've just got to get the special teams sorted out. I think Vedvik looks like an excellent kicker, and I'm hoping that they choose him in that role. But we'll see how, you know, things shake out. Thank you guys for tuning in here to another edition of Viking Spin. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and of course encourage others to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time. Take care.